So she said it's a question from my sorry. She said this is a question from my brother in Syria. He studied the economy and commerce over there, and he would like to know what is the role will be played by the system, the Islamic system of economy in the next century, inshallah, and how can Islam, I mean, through the system really establish, be properly established besides the system of the West and the East, and what is the role of the Muslim?
This question has been theoretically answered or attempted to be answered by many scholars. But unless we produce an illustration or an example of how it can run, it cannot satisfy the Western observers. The problem is that everywhere in the Muslim countries, they are dependent on usury and bank interests, and the banking system at large is the financial system of every Muslim country as well. Either the finances of every country are run on the pattern of the Western banking system, which is capitalism, which cannot be separated from interest or usury, as you may call it. So the world wants to inquire, where can you show us one single system anywhere in the world which can survive in the modern times under modern pressures without using the regularly accepted banking system with interest, etc. On the academic side, I have discussed this question in depth in many places before. Perhaps, I don't remember exactly, but perhaps in Islam and the contemporary issues, you will also find a chapter on this. But let me begin with the beginning. Your husband asked me about Hazrat Muslim. He was the first, in my memory, who wrote a very comprehensive book on the issue of Islam and its financial system for the world, Islam and its economic system for the world. So that book has already been published. What, under the title? Economic. What is the title in Arabic? Do you know that? Nizam al-Iqtisad fil Islam. Nizam al-Iqtisad fil Islam. No, I would advise your brother to read that first. But he will find, as I also feel it is right, that book was written about 50 years or so ago, or 60 years maybe. And it has been a little left behind in time, and the modern current system is not fully addressed by that book. Also, changes have taken place in the communist world, and a large part of the communist world has already is demolished. So, in the new evolving world, what role could Islam play? And do we see any hope that Islam would one day become the economic system of the world? This is a question, perhaps, which your brother wants to ask. So, all the same, whatever I said, I think he would benefit largely from the study of that book, Iqtisadiyat fil Islam. No, Nizam al-Iqtisadiyat fil Islam?
Nizam al-Iqtisad fil Islam.
Yes. But I have always also spoken on this subject at different places. And all these addresses have been recorded. I remember in some of my question and answer sessions, both in Urdu, Arabic, and perhaps German as well, I answered this question at greater length. So I would like you to get the copies of the cassettes which are available here, next door from here. and send them to your brother, because in this short time it will not be possible for me to recollect everything I said on the subject before, and in one sitting repeat everything plus add some more. So this is, for the time being, my answer as far as the theory goes. But as far as the practice goes, he should study the system of Ahmadiyya Jamaat. We are surviving in a world where at times it is impossible altogether to avoid your links with banks, and to conduct business where interest would somehow will be imposed on us. Yet we do not borrow money from the banks to buy our new properties for the Jamaat, to build new mosques, to create new missions, for MTA as well. We have not borrowed a single penny from any bank of the world. And on this I have been consistent throughout my tenure of office. When I went to Europe around 14 years ago, it was in 82.
Yes, 82.
So how many years? 13 years? 14?
50 now.
Huh?
Almost 50.
Almost 15 years. That's right. When I arrived here, I noticed that some Ahmadi countries did not hesitate to borrow money for buying a mission house or building a mosque, etc., from the bank, because they were too eager to get that property which was available, and they did not have enough money. So they thought, for the sake of Allah, if you do it, it's impossible. I mean, it's necessary. It's evil, but necessary evil. So they indulged in this. And everywhere I found this was happening, and I was deeply shocked. So I was told every mission never to indulge in borrowing money from bank on interest. If you have to delay the work, the implementation of any proposed project, delay it. But don't borrow from the bank. If Ahmadis are ready to lend you money, borrow from them without any interest. Qarda hasana. So we started doing it. And from then on, the blessing of Allah which was poured upon us was immeasurable. It was just not countable at all. The money, I don't know how it was provided, but God provided us money from all sides, so much so that the number of mission houses at the time when I took this decision, as compared to the number of mission houses and their sizes, and the mosques and the beautiful, grand mosques we have built ever since, and other properties which we have bought, when compared, they appear like a dot as compared to what we have reached now, what we have achieved now. So I have always been convinced, without a shadow of doubt, that this is the blessing of the Islamic system. We had trusted God, and God did not disappoint us in that trust. He gave us far more than we could have expected. A time has reached now where we are spending just on MTA that much money which we could not spend in 10 years on the entire maintenance of Jamaat Ahmadiyya. In 1 year we are spending that on MTA, and we have not borrowed a penny from any bank. Banks owe us some money, of course. So they keep on adding their own interest according to the system. The choice for us is either to throw it away or to spend it in the cause of Allah, because He is the proprietor of everything. If you don't go for any bargaining where we put it as a condition to get some interest on our money, and it comes without our wish, without our desire, then the only course left open for us is to spend it in the cause of Allah. And that is what we do. It's not spent on the maintenance of Jamaat Ahmediyya, on the maintenance of missionaries, etc. We do not pay them a penny from that money which automatically comes as our bank interest. But if we waste it, it will go to some wrong purpose. It will be used for some wrong purpose. Maybe they give it to the church. So that is why we follow the advice of Hazrat Muslim, that where you have not intended to have any interest and your money without any condition from you gets some interest, it may be all right apparently, but still it's not all right for you to spend on your own persons. So Islam said, still I do not advise you to spend it for your personal requirements. Spend it in the cause of Allah, because for Allah there is no interest. Allah is the owner and the proprietor of everything. Inna lillahi wa inna ilaihi raji'un, everything returns to God. So through that logic, He permitted us to use the money which comes automatically without our wish, without our desire, without a precondition laid by us upon the banks. Right? Now, if everything goes to Allah, why doesn't Jamaat do it at large as such? This Hazrat Masih al-Islam did not permit at all, because then you will begin to play with the prohibitions of Islam lightly. Once you permit yourself to do that, then you may go across and enter, to transgress the limits, and also take this thing lightly. So I think this is the best advice we could get, and not advice, but this guidance we could get from Hazrat Imam Mahdi, and that is how we are running the Ahmadiyya Jamaat's financial affairs. And if your brother finds time to study this, he'll be amazed. Everyone who comes to learn of this, he is really astounded. One visitor from America connected with the satellite system, when he learned of this from me, he couldn't believe his ears. All that, and you're not borrowing any money from any bank? I said, yes, this is it. I said, no, you shouldn't be surprised at that. I say it is because of that, not despite that. Right? Now that is one angle of observation. I would like to point to your brother another angle of observation, from which I have critically examined the very philosophy of capitalism and the system, how it works, and what benefits any financial system of the world can draw from this, if at all any. Now, on this issue I have spoken during my addresses in Western countries. Like when I visited Canada last time, I laid it threadbare to the audience that your system, financial system, is essentially wrong. Wrong in its fundamentals. The result is that this system based on interest is bound to lead to wars, and is bound to lead to internal disasters, for the collapse of your economy, for the unrest created because of inflation, etc., until a time would reach where you lose peace within your countries. And when it would further advance, then the international peace would be threatened. And I told them clearly that this is the meaning of the verses of the Holy Quran which warn mankind. Stop this or be ready for war with God and His Prophet. I said His Prophet is not here now. because he's returned to his God. But the meaning of this is that Islamic system is such that if you avoid it, you're bound to suffer. And this disrespect of Islamic advice, the Quranic advice of how economy should be run, is bound to lead you to a situation of wars, which will be very destructive. So I built the case up bit by bit, fact after fact. And if you watch that video, you'll be amazed that the audience which had come to attend that conference, although it was, the large number among them was not Ahmadis, not Muslims either. And they hail from the very peak of the Canadian society. There were among them professors, experts in economy, ministers, members of parliament, and other highly scholarly people. And they all listened spellbound. And not one of them disagreed with what facts I related and what conclusions I drew. Not only that, after the session, during our lunch, one after the other they came to my table and said, "We have just come to tell you we agree 100% with what you said." Absolutely right. But we are caught, in a mess, in the clutches of a system which has entangled us completely and surrounded us and left us totally helpless. We want to move away. What can we do about it? So some met me even afterwards to consult me separately on the issues where, they held some positions of authority in Canada. So they were so genuinely convinced that they met me afterwards to give them a few guidelines how could they practically implement these things. And I told them the difficulties they were facing. I realized that, of course, but also I showed them at least a way out for making an attempt. If not a way out, but at least there is some ray of hope lying in that direction. So when I am talking of talking of Islamic economy, the system of Islamic economy, to be superior to that of the West, I am not talking through my hat or turban. I am speaking of such facts which overwhelm the scholarly people of the world whose subject it is with conviction. They know that these facts speak for the truth of the Quran and the Quranic philosophy. So your brother, I am quite sure, will not be an exception to this general rule. Right? You can help him, help them. You can seek help from him. Right?